Good afternoon, everybody. On the tubes today we have a Karcher power washer here. Pressure washer, power washer, depending on what side of the lake you're on. What this particular model is doing is when it's fully pressurized, it's just going I'm going to try my best to mimic that. This is from my parents' house, but it's 10 to 20 years old. So it recently just started crapping out. So I'll try to mimic it. But let's just look around it for what it's worth. So it's a Karcher. I don't know if it's a K1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. Usually that's the series. They take the letter K and they put a letter in front of it. Maybe it's a K3. People are saying that if this craps out, you're better off throwing it out because they're so cheap these days. So if I have to take it apart, then we'll take it apart. It's definitely seen better days. What I did off camera was take a look inside here. There's nothing in here. And inside here, this is obviously where the hose goes. I noticed that this was in here. So that probably stops debris. Well, it's not doing its job. I have no idea how this happened, but it looks like it was almost melted. So this is defeating its own purpose. So that's that. Then there's this. So we'll put that back in. I'll put that there so I remember. And then we'll connect the hose. Now, let me jump ahead. Before I try to mimic the motor making that noise, there's something missing. This is missing. You know what this is? There's an O-ring that goes in here. And the reason, and then that goes like that. So I'll double check my car, because this was thrown in the back. But if this is missing, it could this could potentially be the reason why it's making that noise. Because supposedly, according to other YouTube videos, the way there's an air leak, and that's why it's going whang whang. Also, here's the power block. It's a GFI or GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter. Anything that has to do with water, anything has these buttons. This one was red at one point. It's seen better days. It obviously scrapes on the floor. I was going to lop this off. I don't think this is the problem, but it does something kind of wonky. It already makes a noise as soon as you plug it in. I don't know if that's a relay in there turning it on, but that works. I don't know if that's the problem. So what we're going to do is try to mimic the noise with this module. Then I'm going to lop this off, and then I'm going to tackle the motor. This would be the plug that I'm going to add if I choose to. Here's the specs underneath it if you choose to know exactly what it does. That's the main thing everyone looks for. So it only does 1400. There's nothing here, it's made in Italy, and there's nothing here that says the word K. So I can't tell you that it's a K1, K2, K3, but hey, it's better than nothing. What you're not supposed to do is run this dry. But I'm going to run it dry so I can show you that it works. So now they say unplug it, put water in it, and then I'm sorry, unplug it, leave it plugged in, put water on, but leave the nozzle off, and see if it makes a noise. What you're doing is you're eliminating the steps. So what you want to do is activate the water. what this is doing is, to reiterate what I said 2 seconds ago, is with the power off, you're trying to figure out if the unit is leaking. Now, a couple of YouTube videos stated that once you take all that plastic off, there's a couple of other elbows, and there's obviously a motor in there that produces this water. Now, I only see dripping coming from the garden hose, and obviously the stream of water coming out of the top. I do not see, and I will inspect, if there's any water mimicking. I will turn it around, might as well water the grass. I do not see any water accumulating underneath anywhere. Now, that doesn't mean it's not leaking, but what the assumption is that when you get the motor that goes, that's air and the motor compensating. So what's happening is, if I turn this on, I should get a stream of pressure, and it should be constant. And then what we'll do is we'll put the hose on, and if the hose mimics that, then I got to go to a Ace Hardware somewhere with the hose and kind of try to find that rubber piece, which wouldn't be hard. So I don't see any water, I don't see anything leaking, I don't feel anything leaking. There's holes underneath this, so I'm assuming it would be wet, and I've been talking for 2 minutes. So what we're going to do is turn the power on. Technically, I think it should stay running because the pressure. I'm very happy with that. Again, no water. It's a little sharp, but so what we're going to do is, unfortunately, I have to shut the water, and then we'll connect the hose. So we'll just chooch this on. Again, no leaks. I kept the hose off of the trash can on purpose. See, that goes on too much. So what happens is I turn the pressure back on, and it's going to fill, and then it's going to stop, and then we'll see if it comes out, because then there'll be pressure in the hose. Right now it's going through. This always leaks because it's plastic on plastic. There's nothing under here. Oh yeah, it's dripping under here. So we'll just move this forward. Let's try to see if now there's pressure going through the system, and now it stops at the nozzle. So it took a second. There's all water in here, and I don't see any water down there. So what you want to do is activate the nozzle. Let's activate the nozzle. Okay, la 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 la. Get the air out of the nozzle. Typical. It's exactly doing what it would be doing if the top black original nozzle was not in. This also has a lock feature. Actually, it probably has a lock. Okay, it stays, sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to activate it. Now I want to see if it makes the noise, because now it should just blow out. Let me double check. Hold on. Okay, all right. Okay, let's see. That's what it's doing. And when you turn it on, it stays on. So what I'm going to do is bring this nozzle and try to replace that ring. That has to be replaced because it's dripping. If it still continues to make that noise after the ring, then I'll replace the plug. Then if it still does that, then I'll open it up, and then they say sometimes there's dirt, because now that's creating an air leak. So we'll be back. I got two different kinds. I got a 9/16 outer diameter, I'm assuming, times 3/8 inner diameter, and then this one is one whatever the fuck. So if you look at them real quick, they look the same, but the bottom one's actually a little bigger. So I'm going to put this one on first. That looks good to me. You just kind of put it on and that's it. So we'll go home and see if they leak. If this leaks, then I'll put the thicker one on. Alright, back from the home center, and now I noticed something. Now the bottom is wet. Leaking. Or it did leak and I didn't notice it. There's water here. Unless it's from the hose. So anyway, we'll just reactivate. I'm a little bit skeptical in the sense that when I turned it on, with the pressure, it came out of here and it didn't make the noise. And then what you do is you add the nozzle and it makes the noise. And now the nozzle doesn't want to go in. Because it's probably too thick. Of course. Well, that's the problem. I mean, it shouldn't be. It should be fine. It's exactly the way. Take it off, but you can't. This is why people throw these out, because now this doesn't fit. Like, how thin was this thing? I don't see any water in there. I bet you this has to be it. It has to be it. I'm gonna really jimmy this thing on. That's probably what fell, because he might have even replaced it. The other one's bigger, so it wouldn't even work. Well, I'm going to do this off camera. I'll probably have to go back and get a real thin one and then stretch it out. Alright, well, I didn't drill it because that just compromises the unit. So I took a razor blade and I shaved off the bulge. See, now it's exactly in line with the shaft. So for what it's worth, we'll have to see. It goes on. Is it tight? Eh. Is it tight enough? Eh. I tried to take off as much as I can, but so we'll turn the water back on. I can't tell you if it's homeowner special leak proof, but what I can tell you is, let's turn it on. Get the air out. Do-do-do, hun. It's definitely not leaking the way it was. Let's put it that way. That didn't even have any rubber. Okay, moment of truth. Yeah. So now I'll replace the plug. But other than that, I have to take it apart, I guess. That it's gonna work. but I lopped this bitch off and I put this on. So what are you gonna do? I emailed JK18 about this, and he said that you basically tie wrap this thing so it's constantly on, because there's obviously problems. So guess what? It was not the plug. So because I can, and it's a nice day, we're going to take this apart, because some of the videos state that sometimes there's a pinhole. So let's take her apart. Now that this simple video is 14.5 minutes long, so let's just take off what we see. What we see is what we see. Everybody, look at that, bing! So now there's water pressure on it, so I probably should take this off and disengage everything and then re-engage. 7,655. It's a Torx 15. There's 3 of them on each side. 1, 2, 3. Torx 15. That's it. Lift it up, bring it out. No water, which means that's a good thing. It's not leaking. But not necessarily a good thing, because something's leaking. Oh, I see a spring. I actually do see a spring. Alright, and I see a part. I think it's... Is this just... There's parts in here. Let me shut the power, just in case I engage the fan. Iron dips down. Power's seen better days. I don't know. We're going to dive into this, but just, I don't know where these pieces came from. There's plastic here, there's a housing here, then there's this, it could not even, doesn't even have to be, there's a spring right here. Then of course there's water. This should be fun. So we'll just dive into this and just take it from there. Worst case scenario, it's just clogged. It's sucking air from somewhere. Going as far as I'm willing to go. I popped the cap of the power. You have this jobby, and a capacitor. That's all the power. Then I popped this cap, which went like that. I used a 6mm for what it's worth. This way we just keep making everybody nice. 6mm. Those came right off. I put the 6mm on these 4 bolts, and they didn't really come off, but anything past here, what am I supposed to do? These rubber pieces go here. I'm going to clean. They say they make kits. You could go to Karcher and you could probably replace all these. Oh, fuck. It sits like this. Oopsie. That's what happens when you touch things. I'll take it all out and I'll clean them. So they say that this thing sits on the rubber. Sorry, this thing sits on the rubber, and what does this do? Just pulsate the air and water? Whatever. I'll hit it with the hose. I'll put it all back. There's a seal here. These things, this thing, I don't know. They say that you could get a kit, you could replace all these little, oh Jesus Christ. You could replace all these little seals. See how that's like wonky? See how that's wonky? Maybe there's air getting through there. So maybe if I'll just hit them with some water, it's not going to help. Let me see. Yeah, whatever. This thing went in the middle. I'm looking at the stuff, not the camera. I need to like mount the camera on my face. So I'm just going to hose everything off and then put it back. It's not going to work, but I don't know where some of these pieces, I don't know what this is. I don't know. There's nothing here. Oh, maybe there was a piece here. I have no idea what the spring does. No idea. There's nothing that's broken. Unless the spring went in here, but there's nothing that I could decipher that the spring... Maybe I'll watch... Oh, maybe it went in here? Who knows? This just turns. Maybe I'll watch a couple of videos. I really didn't find one on this thing. So I'll hose it all off, I'll put it back, and we'll take it from there. It'll probably still leak. Not leak, but make the noise. Well, that's worse. So this thing is shot. I guess I was hitting it with the hammer. So it's broken. It's so stupid. Ah, that's how I'm making a seal. See the nozzle? There's no water. This thing is doing something all by itself. I think if I hit the off button, it doesn't shut off. Well, that's going to conclude this episode of Not Fixing a Karcher Power Washer. Hit like, hit subscribe, and hey, I won't throw it out, but maybe you could give me some insight as to why in God's green earth this is happening.